Hi, this is Paul Logan, and you're listening to the Dave and Creech Show. Watch out for the Horde. Run for your life.
Hi, this is Costas Mandylor from the Horde, and you're listening to the Dave and Creech Show. Enjoy. You want to play a game?
This is the Dave and Creech Show, the only podcast where podcaster CJ Creech and actor Dave Sheridan come together to talk all things entertainment with your favorite entertainers. Want to ask our guests a question? Tweet them to @DaveSheridan or @CJCNOV88, and they may be asked to our guests live on the show. We do have to ask you stay seated during the podcast because this ride may get a little bit hilarious. Now here's your hosts, Dave and Creech.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 24 of the Dave and Creech Show. I am your host, CJ Creech, and yes, I did say host. I'll be getting into that a little bit later. But this is a great episode for you today. We've got a long, informative interview with the main stars of the action horror film The Horde. That's right, that's Paul Logan and Costas Mandylor. And it is going to be a great interview, and we've got a great podcast for you. So let's go ahead and get into it today. Now, obviously, as I just said, I am your host today. Normally, that is co-host. Actor Dave Sheridan is my co-host, but there's kind of a funny story. Those that don't know, actually, Dave lives in North Carolina, and right now I am in beautiful Mount Airy, North Carolina. Normally, I broadcast from South Carolina. And the funny thing about that is, this is the first time we're recording in the same state, but through the Wi-Fi of where I'm at right now, it's horrendous, to be brutally honest. And it's not working too well. So unfortunately, me and Dave aren't able to record this part of the podcast. So in some ways, it is just the Creech Show. Kind of a throwback to my Creech Questions days here. However, it is still the Dave and Creech Show because Dave Sheridan is leading on the interview, and it is a majority of this episode this week. So, if you want to get technical, it is still the Dave and Creech Show. Now, before we get into the interview, because that is going to be the first thing we do today, do want to go ahead and give you all of the guys' channels that you can follow and keep up with them. Now, if you want to follow on Twitter, you can follow Paul Logan @RealPaulLogan. You can follow Costas @Costas Mandylor. That's MANDYLOR. And The Horde, the actual film itself, @The Horde Movie. Now, if you are more Instagram-oriented, you can follow Paul @PaulLogan88. You can follow Costas Mandylor @RealCostasMandylor, and The Horde @The Horde Movie. So, once again, this is a great movie, guys. This is out on VOD right now, so if you get a chance, or if you even want to, be one of the only few times where, whether you're listening to it on Spreaker, on demand, or if you're listening to this live right now, on the air on WROM, if you want to come back to either a later showing or pause it, you should go check this movie out. I mean, we're not dropping any spoilers, but it's a great film. So you should definitely at some point check out The Horde, like I was just saying, and like we'll talk about in here. It's available pretty much anywhere in America right now on VOD. More outlets will be releasing it soon. So, without further ado, here is our interview with Costas Mandylor and Paul Logan of The Horde.
We're on with Paul, huh? Yo.
What's up?
Going
How are you?
We got The Horde.
Yeah.
Where are you calling from right now? You in Los Angeles?
Yeah, I live in L.A. Full time. Originally from New York, though.
But you must be from the same area in New York. What part of New York are you from?
A little bit upstate, about 40 minutes northwest of the city. A place called Nyack. It's right on the water, right on the Hudson.
Yeah, I know Nyack very well. Yeah, my mom and dad they spent some time there after they got married. My mom's from Endicott, Binghamton, which is more upstate New York. You know.
Oh yeah.
My dad's from New Jersey. I grew up in Jersey. I'm living in North Carolina now. Spent some time out in the Los Angeles there for about 25 years.
Nice.
So, is the Horde is it out right now? Right?
Yeah, we launched May 6th on VOD everywhere. So iTunes, DirecTV, Amazon. I mean, everywhere. I mean, every cable company pretty much imaginable has it running right now on video on demand.
Great. That's awesome. Yeah, and then are there plans to release it actually on DVD as well?
Yeah, well, we're doing it in stages. What it is you do pay VOD first, and then the next phase, about 60 to 90 days later, is your physical DVD and your subscription VOD, like your Netflix and Hulu, as well as Redbox and stuff like that. And then after that, it'll go down to your other ancillary markets, like your Showtime, your Cinemax, whoever wants to pick it up that way. And then we do the same thing foreign-wise as well. We go to subscription VOD, pay VOD for subscription VOD, physical DVD, and foreign TV. So that's kind of like the trickle-down effect.
You have a great cast in this film. A lot of notable names, a lot of good cameos in it as well. And but I want to back it up even further just about Paul personally.
Okay,
for our listeners that don't know 100% about you and your whole background and everything, and also because our listeners are, aspiring filmmakers, aspiring actors, people that want to get into the writing and directing, and you've obviously managed to have a very successful career now as you're spreading out, the acting, now the writing and the producing. But take me back from the very beginning. You obviously have a martial arts background. How did you get into this, and where did it all stem from?
It's funny. I kind of fell into this. Like you said, I've been doing martial arts since I was 13. I was always the skinny kid. I was bullied, when I was growing up. So got into martial arts when I was 13. But I graduated high school like 6 foot, 145 pounds. I was like a rake. And started working out with weights when I was 17. I took a poster of Stallone, put it on my dorm room door, and said I want to look like that, and kind of started doing that. But when I was in college, I was a biochem major in New York, and got my degree in biochem, came out here to L.A. to go to chiropractic school. I finished that, passed all 4 parts of my boards, and had my clinic hours to put in. I was sitting by my pool one day studying, chiro books, and this woman sat down next to me. She was a manager. She asked if I was an actor. Told her it was always something that was in the back of my head, and she said that she could get pictures taken of me, start sending me out. A couple of weeks later, I booked my first film. I was a lead bad guy in this film called Killers, and haven't looked back. I met my best friend on that set, and he introduced me to my acting coach, and started training with him, and just been working. I was on Days of Our Lives for like almost 3 years, Friends, Angel Smith, a bunch of films for Sci-Fi Channel, a lot of action stuff. And that's pretty much what I've been doing. And I got tired of waiting for projects to come to me, so I started writing scripts. I had all these ideas. And I've written 6 scripts, and The Horde was actually the last one I wrote because I wanted to do something that could be done on a limited budget. And also I want, something that hadn't really been done before. And the reason The Horde came about was most horror films are the same. It's a bunch of kids, they go into the woods, the killer or the killers hunt them down one at a time. You've seen it a million times, but you've seen it a million times because that's what the horror audience wants, expects, and enjoys. I always thought, what would happen if you had the same scenario, a bunch of, kids off on a nature photography trip, a bunch of Hills Have Eyes type mutant people, cannibalistic, evil individuals hunting them down. But you had one person in the kids group who was an ex-Navy SEAL, who could fight back and turn the hunters into the hunted. So you have all the boo scares and gore of a horror film coupled with the action of an action movie. So it's kind of a twist on the classic horror film.
Yeah, and we're not going to give any spoilers away, but it's got the setup of your sort of classic horror film, Your Hills Have Eyes, and then because you throw in Crenshaw, your character, into the mix, all of a sudden you get this sort of, you know, a classic action movie, whether that's Stallone or a Seagal.
It is. It's funny. It's like because Sly had such a big influence on me. You know, all those movies growing up. Basically, the Horde is The Hills Have Eyes meets Rambo. If you think about it.
Well, yeah, and I caught the Rambo reference in the fact that you brought your knife and you got your bow actually at the end where it was like, well, actually, was the bow the bow was theirs because it was in the other truck, right?
No, the bow. What the Horde does is they go out and kill campers and hunters and anybody that crosses paths in the woods. They take their
and they're
stuff.
Collecting stuff.
They sell the stuff. Or they have the vehicles there. They sell the vehicles, you know, in town.
You've got these Hills Have Eyes guys, you know. It's the cannibalistic thing, but there's a level to it that, and when Costas gets on, we could talk about his character because ultimately there's a little, you know, what do you want to say, a stick in the spokes all of a sudden that happens that takes it up a notch and kind of really has it all pay off at the end.
I agree. Yeah, there's a great twist at the end for sure.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's what I try to do as well. Like I said, I wanted to keep one foot in what people were familiar with and, you know, then try to turn that, you know, on its ass and, like, you know, flip it around a little bit, you know, and make them see something that they haven't seen or a combination of something they hadn't seen before. Because most of these horror films are, you know, these victims, you know, running through the woods, you know, scared little girls or scared little, you know, teenagers that can't fight back. And the fact that Crenshaw is someone who's trained and is, you know, trained really well at taking out these, you know, people, it just gives that whole, you know, different flavor to it. And, you know, that's what people have really been responding to. I've had, you know, and this is one of the best compliments I had. I've had a bunch of people who are on Navy bases and in the armed forces or ex-armed forces watch this and said that, you know, I portrayed, you know, Crenshaw as a SEAL really, really well. And you know, the way he was taking people out, just his demeanor and his etiquette, and you know, that was the biggest compliment to me. I was fortunate enough about 10 years ago to do a film with one of the UFC fighters, Bas Rutten, and I've been training mixed martial arts for, you know, ever since I met him, so probably about 10 years now. And I did all the fight choreography for the Horde. So what I wanted to do was bring a lot of the MMA moves and, you know, techniques in. So there's a lot of knees and elbows and arm bars and just real brutal stuff that you would see, you know, in the UFC, because that's your core audience for an action movie. If you think about it, you know, you have these people who watch the UFC or watching the action movies, and if they see those techniques, they'll believe that this guy is a SEAL. And that's actually what they were telling me too. The people who had watched it, who were in the armed forces, the real heroes, that they loved, you know, the fighting style of this guy. And that, you know, so I was very, very fortunate, you know, to hear that from them.
That's awesome. Yeah, and this WROM radio is what we're on, and it's an internet radio, and actually it's one of the most popular radios on the bases around the world because, you know, we play American music on this station and stuff like that, and it's an American celebrities, interviews and stuff, and so this is how they get a lot of their entertainment is through their Wi-Fi services and stuff like that because they're not getting regular American radio over there. So.
Well, I just want to take a second then and to say thank you to every single one of our armed forces who, you know, can hear this and who's out there protecting us to make it possible for guys like me to have the luxury of portraying the real heroes and, you know, trying to do them justice. Because, I mean, without them doing that, you know, I can't do what I do. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart.
So going back to the Horde, it's out now everywhere on VOD.
You have DirecTV, Cox, ATT-Uverse, PlayStation, Xbox, Voodoo has it as well. So, I mean, if you go to thehordemovie.com, there's a whole laundry list of carriers there's probably, you know, 50, 60 carriers across the country that are carrying it right now.
I love the fact that you can get it on the video game consoles because, honestly,
oh, yeah,
that's probably where the majority of people are just sort of tapping into it. The movie itself is like a video game at parts, you know what I mean? And the bones breaking and the brutalness to it. You know, you have a bit of a two in the middle that even though you have the Hills Have Eyes and the little Texas Chainsaw Massacre thing, there's also that movie, The Hostel, where those movies back in that period where it had that kind of what they claim the segment was called torture porn, you know, like where it's just really brutal and bloody. I mean, those two moments where they capture the kids and the girl, who Tiffany Brower plays your fiance, soon to be wife. I've worked with her, by the way, actually in a movie with Holt. She's great.
Yeah, she was great. She and you know what? She brought Selena to life really, really well, because I didn't want her to be just this weak damsel in distress. Because if she was someone that is involved with someone like Crenshaw, he's gonna, teach her stuff, and he's gonna, kind of teach her to, let me look. She spits in Costas' face when she's getting taken prisoner, and there's that one line that is my favorite line in the movie where she, when Costas is ranting, I'm gonna, my men are gonna hunt him down, and I'm gonna blah blah blah, and she just laughs, and he's like, "What are you laughing at?" And she said, "The fact that you think you're hunting him." Yeah, that was
right.
And she delivered that so well. She was great.
And then you've got a great role for Vernon Wells, right?
Oh God, yeah, he was great. And the funny thing about that is, I called up Vern and I said, "Hey, the Horde's greenlit. I would love for you to take a look at the script, and there's a couple of roles that you can do. Please let me know, who you want to do." And I didn't even think that Earl was on the table, because he read the script and he comes back and he goes, "Paul, I really want to do Earl." Really? Because when I wrote that character, he was silent. He didn't say a word, because I had no idea who I was going to get for that role. And I thought it would be really, really creepy if he's doing all this horrific stuff, and Riley's there and he's begging for his life and everything, and the guy was just silent. But I'm thinking then, I'm like, Vern, give me a day. I got Vernon Wells. I'm not going to have him be silent. And I wrote all that dialogue, and he just killed it. No pun intended.
Oh yeah, no. To me, I think it's one of the. I love that scene. I just loved his dialogue. I loved sort of a guy that was like, you almost like go, hey, I guess he makes sense. That doesn't, I could see how he could like doing this. You know what I mean? Like when he talks about his favorite type of meat. You know what I mean? And he's it was a 13-year-old girl's thigh or whatever it was, and he's just salivating, really enjoying what he does, I personally I hold it up there in that kind of like that monologue, so to speak, because the other guy's a little tongue-tied, no pun intended.
No pun
but
intended.
It's up there with, it reminded me, it was up there with like the Quint from Jaws, sort of where he finally reveals his whole
the Indianapolis
backstory and what he's doing and stuff,
Yep. No, it's funny, and literally we were probably about maybe 2 hours from shooting that scene, and Vern and I were talking, and I thought about the whole thing with hunters, and I was like, I go, Vern, why a hunter, they want to kill a deer or whatever their prey is with one quick shot, because otherwise, if the fear kicks in and the animal starts running, the adrenaline goes through the meat, and the hunters say that kind of spoils the meat. It sours the taste of the meat. I'm like, what if this guy is so fucked up that he likes that? So he's going to try to instill as much fear into them as possible. And Vern loved that, and he wove that in there in that one part, and I was like, this is brilliant. It was great.
I know one thing, and this is, we're also a Walking Dead podcast. We have a huge following of Walking Dead. That's actually how I met
the Dead.
My co-host Creech interviewed me for his original podcast, because I did a spoof called The Walking Deceased, and then we do these updates on The Walking Dead with other fans and stuff as the season goes along, and Fear the Walking Dead, we need to do a little catch up. But I remember Costas was he was in talks to do Negan. He was, his agents were talking to the production there, and then all of a sudden he pops up on this screen, and I'm like, because I always said to him, I go, dude, you would kill that character. You are that guy. And I see a little bit of molding of his character in this movie of like, I can almost see that he probably brought that to it because he was already in that mode and in that zone.
It's funny, yeah. Well, it's funny, though. We shot the Horde in October of 2014. You know, so it was way before Negan came out. You know, and even writing the Horde, I didn't, have that. But the funny thing is, if you look at even the way he was dressed and like with the bat and everything, it was and that speech he was giving, to the Horde, it was funny. It was kind of Negan-esque.
Yeah, and it's going to be hard for me to watch next season and not think of Costas, because I just feel like, hey, like he definitely could have nailed that character, and obviously on The Walking Dead, that is going to be such a huge character for the next few years on there. So
absolutely.
And so really quick, so you had obviously you're friends with a lot of these actors. You went out to them personally with the script. Hey, read this. In producing this, now, is this the first feature film that you've produced, or have you produced other ones?
I co-produced on some things, but that was basically me just bringing some elements that I had to the table to other projects. But as far as producing a movie, literally really producing, not just a throwaway credit, this is the first one that I produced. So, yeah, it was calling up, friends that I've, known for years and people that I've done favors for, in the past, and kind of just trying to put, together the best, cast and crew we could with the budget that we had.
Right. And is there a part of that side of thing, taking on a producing role, that was something of, I wouldn't say it was a surprise, but maybe some extra, like, because you're probably thinking like, okay, I'm acting, I'm almost in every scene. I got to wrap out. I want to get my sleep. I'm a certain age. I got to make sure I get my body to recover between, you're physically in this movie pretty hardcore, and I know you're obviously in good shape. That's whenever I watch these movies, the first 20 minutes is just me going, God, I got to get in shape. So thanks a lot. And I'm going to tell you all about my ribs and my back in a minute, because I just fell from a ladder 11 feet 7 days ago, and I cracked 2 ribs. And
ribs are the worst.
The one rib is dislocated from, I think they said the L4, L5, but everything is so swollen right now, like I can't go to the chiropractor and get it reset because it's just all jammed up and swollen. So once it's all healed, I'm still going to need to get that reset back into the rib cage, I guess.
Yes, as soon as possible, you need to get that set back in there before any scar tissue builds up.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go get a little date with the chiropractor then. But going back to what, in terms of producing, was there anything specific comes to mind that you didn't realize, like, wow, this is taking up a lot of my energy, that's taking up a lot of time, or just mental, the mental energy of some of those sort of requirements? Did you learn anything on that side?
You know what? I've been on so many sets and seen so many things go wrong that I try to kind of idiot-proof our set. And the good thing is that we had an amazing team that we put together from, the other producers that were there with me, the women from 313 Films who financed the film. They were also producing on this, and they were on set every day, and they were, helping out. I mean, and it was great because everyone was doing their job 100%. And they, it was nice because I would do all my producing stuff and, try to do all that. Once I got onto set and got into Crenshaw mode, I was able to, shift gears and get into that mode and, then deal with anything else that came up, afterwards. And, but the great thing about producing was that, again, I didn't have to make excuses for this film. If you're doing someone else's film and, you have this, you're not really in charge. All of a sudden you have this great fight scene, or this great action sequence that looks great on paper, but then when you get to the location that they chose is wrong, or the people that they chose to, do the fights with you can't really fight, so you have to water it down, and, or it gets lost in editing, they didn't get the right, I didn't make, it was nice because I was in charge of, basically, putting all that stuff together, and the team that we put together, it was great. And so this is the first one that I really don't have to make excuses for. And it's nice and it's refreshing to be able to, have that creative control. Again, I was doing all the fight scenes, doing my own stunts so that, I've never been doubled in a movie other than a snowboarding movie I did because I ski. And, so choreographing all the fight scenes and were doing all the action stuff, I tailored it to stuff that I knew that I could do. And, it was, good because we didn't have to hide my face or shoot, a double or anything like that, which kind of waters down fight scenes or action sequences. And my stunt coordinator, Tony Snagoff, brought this crew of amazing stunt actors in to, take the falls and the hits. And, Tony lit himself on fire for us. And that, those guys made me look like a hero. Because, without that team, I'm some guy, who can throw kicks and is holding a script in my hand. That, you know what I mean? Those guys are the ones that made me look so good. So, my hat's off to them and to everybody who, worked in this film, because it made my producing job so much easier on set because of the team and the caliber of these people.
Right. Yeah. So you did the smartest thing a producer can do is hire the other people that can do their jobs and, basically so that you're not, and especially since you're taking on the starring role at the same time, it's like you can clock in as that actor at the beginning when they call action and everyone is doing what they need to do. And, if there's things that need taken care of, it's after, you know what I mean? So it's,
exactly.
Obviously that's a mental thing from you that you have to know how to turn it off and turn it on and just focus. But that comes, with your years of doing the martial arts, working out, whatever it might be, you obviously, that all comes into play of understanding how to focus your mental focus when it needs to be focused,
Thank you. Yeah, and it's I look at it like this as well. I've been on, films of all different budget ranges. And some of the films that are lower budget, a lot of them either fail or look lower budget because of one thing. It's poor organization. If you have all the money in the world and all the time in the world, you could, pretty much put out any problem. But if you have a limited budget and a limited, time frame to shoot something in, you need to be, double, triple, quadruple, organized. And, you need to, I had backups for everything. I had contingencies for those backups, so that if anything goes wrong, which it will on a movie set, you have, backup plans so that you don't lose shots. You don't have to water things down. You plan things out. And you know what? Organization is free. It just takes time and effort. And that's what we did. Jared, my director, Jared Cohn, and I sat down and we went over every single scene, line by line, and figured out what we're going to do, And, then on set, he ran the ship, and it was great.
What's up? What is
Sorry
that,
to interrupt.
motherfucker?
Oh, I like it. That's flirting. We call this flirting. Guys, I'm sorry I'm late, but I was in a predicament. Free, I'm outside. If you hear dogs barking, I'll shoot them. Sorry, I shouldn't say that on the radio. I am free and ready to talk. Paul Logan was actually speaking. I'm here.
What's up, brother?
Everything's okay. I hate being late, but how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you, my friend?
Very good.
I haven't seen you since Germany, by the way. You remember that good time we had there in Germany, right?
Yes, sir. Is this a public radio show?
You know what, though? It's internet radio, so we can beep out shit. So I think, what's funny was you told me all about this movie when we were hanging out in Germany, and I remember how I was just talking to Paul about this, how you and I were talking about how they were The Walking Dead you were in discussions with the Negan role on that, in terms of there was some interest, and next thing you know, I'm watching this film going like, fuck this guy, he definitely should have fucking been cast as Negan, because you were just brilliant in this movie, and the viciousness of your character in this movie was at that level, you know what I mean? And,
Thanks. Well, I'm sure Jeffrey Dean Morgan would have something to say about that, but when he's not looking, I'll get him anyway. The point is that I didn't think about it when we were doing it, because it's sort of like when you're doing something, your mind's on that and nothing else. But I see the similarities. There is a baseball bat, and there are speeches and things like that. But I'm glad it had that kind of ferocity, because we were running and gunning with that, lower budget, mentality, and Paul Logan's jumping off roofs and they're doing stunts that are worthy on screen, I guess, of bigger movies. So
Thanks, buddy.
we did our job as best we could with the time allowed, and I'm glad that you saw some kind of similarity.
Yeah, I was also saying that you did it first, bro. When we shot this, year and a half ago, and that Negan character just came out, so you put it on film first.
Yeah, good way.
There you go.
I still got to kill Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Go on.
I'd like to see that. I'd like to see that grudge match, a little match of the two characters go at each other. That would be great.
I would relish it.
Costas, how did you get involved in this film? Were you already buddies with Paul beforehand, and he brought you the script, or was this how did this all occur?
You know what? Sometimes there's a term called happy accidents. It happens on films. It happens in life. You hear about big deals when guys are playing golf and people will go, hey, oh yeah, I didn't think of you. Yeah, let's do this. They make deals and shit like that happens. But with this particular occasion, Paul and I happened to be just talking because we had met
at Chiller,
in Jersey. And one day we were having a phone call and it came up and he goes, maybe, and within a day or two, actually it was a couple of days before, but he said, this thing's coming up, maybe it's a good idea. And I rocked up to the set, and before you knew it, I was committed. And sometimes you just jump in with good faith, and it turned out to be pretty good because I've heard nothing but good things, overall.
I loved it. Yeah, look, I work in the business, so I see the films. I understand the sort of nuts and bolts of what really has to happen behind the scenes, and it's a lot. It's, and I think, Paul, you'll attest to this, that until they call action on your first day of shooting, you're just like, is this really any film can just fall apart at any minute. It's like, that stress never goes away.
What I mean by happy accidents, I'm saying that sometimes you envision a scene one way, you envision it one way, and things change because certain actors have a dynamic and directors trust them and blah, 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 and magic happens. And in this particular case, with a smaller movie when you're shooting 18 days, when people seem to be on the same page and there's no diva bullshit and there's no, I don't want to do, it just happens and people get lucky with the smaller type movies, even the bigger movies, shit just happens where things click. And that's what I mean by happy accidents. Good people come together, they're helping each other instead of getting in each other's way, and that's what happened.
With the financing of this film, you said it was 313, right? Was the production company?
Yeah, 313 Films, yeah.
Did they, did you personally have to go out and get the letters of intent to some of these actors before, that came through? Or was it sort of like they saw this project and just jumped on board and said, we can take that part of it and sort of put the cast together?
The way that went down was they knew the connections that they had and the friendships that they had, and they trusted that I could, pretty much, bring on board, some of the friends that I had. And, like Costas was saying, we had spoken about this, 4 or 5 months before we started shooting at Chiller, and I had done a sizzle reel for it. Showed him that, and he read the script and loved it. But, again, as an actor, I know that shit doesn't happen until, honestly, the money's in the bank, and even then, it could fall apart. So I didn't want to, start calling my friends and saying, hey, this thing is going, until I knew it was really, really green-lit. And once it was green-lit, though, that's when the phone call that Costas was talking about, I called him up, and, he was, willing to come on board, and it was great. And same thing, with Vernon and Bill, making those calls. It was great because it was, legit. You don't want to make those calls until, you know that the funding is there, because I've been on too many of the other ends of those phone calls where someone calls me and says, yeah, well, the movie that we're supposed to shoot next month, is getting pushed because the funding, blah, blah, blah. I've gotten so many of those phone calls. I'm sure Costas has too.
You mean Paul's saying basically he and his cohorts were legitimate producers, respectful producers.
Thank you.
That's a big difference. Yes, I just want to say that because people talk a lot of shit and shit doesn't happen, and then this whole industry becomes like it's such a bullshit industry. But when people do it the way you guys did it, it becomes a respected place to be.
Going back to just your two characters on screen together, great chemistry. Obviously, you see these, your character, Costas, we're actually were introduced to him prior to meeting Crenshaw. I think if I'm right? Because we had that cold opening scene with the guys, and he's like, "Welcome to our woods," or "These are our woods." I forget your line. And then, and then we're meeting Crenshaw. I know mainly because I know I was getting on an interview with you two guys, so I already knew I know where this is going. I'm seeing these are dudes that are going to face off against each other, sort of alpha males in the woods, both having their paths kind of collide. But, and Paul obviously is a physical specimen. He's the stunt coordinator. He's got martial arts, but in sort of coordinating. Yeah, well, there you go. And you've got your boxing background and stuff. So, what is the, just in terms of the stunts and stuff like that, was there, how sort of physical did that get, in terms of, did anything ever cross the line, or was it just, it's stunts or stunts,
Go. You can go first, Paul.
Yeah, no, honestly, here's the thing, you never know who you're going to work with, but me knowing Costas was a blessing because we've got that, scene, that, I'm trying to do this without spoilers, but the scene between us and, Costas is a pro, and that scene looks badass because Costas is a pro. And, that's why I was so happy to have him on board for that reason as well, because this wasn't just, a talking head role for him. I mean, he's hanging out of the side of the car shooting, and there's fights, and he's got that presence, and I knew he could bring it. And that's why, he raised the level of Atkinson up off that page because he could do all the physicality. And here's the thing, we went over it, I choreographed it, we coordinated it, and Jared called action, and it looks great because of, what he could do. Yeah. So but, that's, it's all preparation and his knowledge.
But, I was going to say, I got cut off for half the question, but you were talking about safety as well, or how hairy it gets. Is that kind of
right?
The question?
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, the bottom line is, when you're working with people that actually know how to fight, that are not, advantageous in their sickness, people are safer than ever because you can pull punches. I could punch him all day long in the body, even though he's got abs of steel. He does, by the way. I could hit him all the time, and it could look like, because you know how to pull it, and that's not showing off. It's just talking about when you fight with people who know how to do their thing, they can make it look so good. They can keep missing you by that half an inch or 6 inches. They can punch you in the stomach, and you can go and sell it. When people don't know what they're doing is when shit happens and goes wrong. You know what I'm saying? So, fortunately, everybody knew what they were doing, and you never really worry about it. But the small budget stuff and safety, and Paul was pretty much on top of it, because he knows his stuff, and whoever was helping me knew this stuff. Shrapnel from the bullets, the fake bullets going to the right side, stuff with explosions. That's the stuff that I worry about much more. But when you got the right people there, they double, triple check stuff. But as far as physical, it was easy, and I got away with a lot because I didn't have to do too much running and jumping like Paul. But it's always good to be ready for that kind of stuff. But I went in there on short notice. But what we did was fun because you knew there's no ham bone in there. We're going to do it, make it look raw, and get what we need without anybody going, "Oh, I fucked up my eye," and things like that. But the tricky stuff with actually getting touched, and to be honest, sometimes, it's okay to touch some people and give them a front kick to the gut or something. But the angles are what Hollywood was made of. I mean, we're talking about Bruce Lee. You think Bruce Lee hit anybody? You kidding me? I mean, John Wayne used to do those haymakers. How good they looked, how raw they looked, because they knew what they were doing. I don't want to be touched. If some guys go, "Just hit me, man." I'm like, "Dude, are you all right? We're going to do 30 takes. Just hit me."
Yeah.
The idea is to not to get hit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. It's like
but apparently, if you work with Seagal, you got no choice. But you know what? Him give you a little getting a bruise from Seagal would probably be a compliment. But what were you going to say?
Getting a bruise from Seagal would be a compliment. I mean.
Well, you know what I mean. I mean, he's known for sort of reaching out there, and then some people have gotten hurt. But he's a legend, and as long as he doesn't break your face.
Yeah, that's true.
If he kicked me or something, I'd be like, "Hey, that was a good one." He's a big dude. But in general, I mean, we're making movies, and they're more realistic and wonderful, but nobody has to get hurt. You got to go home and kiss your wife, and do that stuff. And pick up your kid and take him to the game, right?
It was great because it was like this dialogue, battle, and intercut with this physical battle, which was great. It was me being snarky and sarcastic, and trying to piss off Costas as much as possible, and him just fooling me up. And it was great because, again, I totally trusted Costas, so we made the stuff look as real as possible, and he brought it.
For us, it was a very contained space. It wasn't like running and jumping and breaking up the bar. And he was being somewhat. I had a lot of help in there. I don't want to spoilers. I hate that stuff too. But look, it was good. It was late, and we gave it the intensity. And sometimes it doesn't have to be a big old, magnificent, gigantic action scene to have the intensity. You know what I'm saying? It has to be. You got to feel what's going on, and the selling and the faces and the cruelty and all that kind of stuff. I remember one scene, guys, that was one of the most unbelievably violent scenes that I bought, hook, line, and sinker. And I'd like to ask the guys if anybody could hear it. I'm pretty sure they didn't. But do you remember the scene in Once Were Warriors when the father, what's his name, Cliff Curtis played the uncle. That's where he began his career kind of thing. And he raped the lead's daughter. And when they found out towards the end of the movie, the Tamir Morrison gave him such a beating. And, the intentions of the characters and what happened before and how you execute it is all important. And that was one of the greatest. Does anybody remember that?
I think so, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Well, just rewatch that scene. You go, oh, my God. It beats a lot of the choreographed stuff that you see, even though it probably was choreographed. But I just say that when it's done well and the audience responds, then we know we've done our job.
All right, and then I do have a fan question for Costas from Brian Daniels, and he wanted to know, being that you've been an actor for a while as well as Paul, with your work on the Saw film series, was there anything that you learned while working on that you used in the Horde?
In the Saw movies?
Yeah.
Yeah, don't get into trouble and don't put yourself in a position to be put in a trap. They're really hard to get out of. That's the first. You'll understand what I mean. Look, I think that every experience is a learning thing. When it comes to fighting, there wasn't a lot of that fighting stuff. Although I did have some good fight scenes. I think just as you go along, you pick up a lot of tips and all kinds of stuff from different types of choreographers and whatnot. And when you get to do like over 20 movies, and you're sort of like, it's a different movie, it's a different fight scene with different people, but in the end, most of the same rules apply. It's like watching a football game. What do you got to do? You got to make sure you catch the ball. You got to make sure you protect the quarterback. You got to make sure this. You got to make sure that. Sort of the same rules and principles apply. You know what I mean? So yeah, you learn from every movie you do.
And that
okay.
Actually, and just to hit, I just want to hit on that again because Costas brought it up, but obviously Paul's brought it up already. And we're talking about the Horde. It's available right now on VOD, pretty much on all formats. But what's really special about this movie is it really is a combination of a really good horror movie. It's got your horror moments in there. It's got brutality. If you're into that torture porn stuff like the Saw stuff, this thing has it in spades. But it also has some great action movie stuff. And if you're into those action movies, it delivers a 1-2 punch here for both fans. And I know there's a crossover with those fans, so I just want to make sure everyone sees it, because obviously the Horde part of it and the marketing really does sell the horror side of it, probably a little bit stronger than anything else. But this is a great, hero action movie, good guys versus bad guys, and the good guy hopefully wins at the end. I don't want to give away the sort of a twist ending, but you will see. And one question on that availability is, so is it also already available worldwide, or the sort of foreign sales sort of trickling out to different territories as they sell them?
Right now it's available in the United States and English-speaking Canada, and the rest of the world will be available probably. We're thinking within the next couple of months. I think that's what they're aiming for. So we're waiting for our international distributors for that right now, for hard dates on that. I don't want to give any hard dates because honestly I don't know them yet, but it is definitely available now. So the best thing to do to find out where it's available is to go to thehordemovie.com, and there's a whole laundry list of stuff there. And it's actually a cool site because it has a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff, a lot of pictures, videos, and interviews with people as well to kind of get a feel for the Horde. And if you want to follow us on social media, we're always updating where it's available. And the Twitter for the Horde is @thehordemovie, and my Twitter is @realpaullogan. So you can follow our social media, and it kind of keeps you up to date on the availability because it keeps getting more and more every day.
Yeah, and that's why I brought it up, because I mentioned to you before that we have a lot of armed services because we're the internet radio. A lot of our listeners are serving on bases around the world, and just check on that website and connect with the Horde and connect with Paul on Twitter and Facebook, and you'll be updated and stuff like that. And have you ever met the fake Paul Logan? Now that you're the real Paul Logan?
I've had to shut down a lot of people who happen to, I guess, go to the internet or my website and pull a lot of pictures and make some fake profiles up, and it's pretty interesting. I don't know what the end game was with that, but I've shut down a bunch of them, and so it's funny. But yeah, what? Real Paul Logan.
That's interesting because I'm very internet not savvy, guys, and I really have to clean up my act and catch up with the real world because I'm an old school kind of hearted guy. But I know that for business and stuff, you got to catch up. But I had, according to my friends and my brother and different people that are aware of all this stuff, I had 8 fake Costas Mandylor people. Mm-hmm. The funny thing was like, well, what do I care? It's not me. People think they're talking to you, and it's not fair to the people that think they're talking to you, right? Especially fans and stuff. But Paul, I got to talk to you about that. But I sort of let it go because I said, oh, well, you know what? I'm going to have a real Costas Mandylor thing, which I've started on Instagram and whatnot. But the funny thing about these people that are phonies, that pretending to be you, it's like they're really resourceful. They find pictures of you that you've never seen, or like, I look really good in that movie, in that shot. How did they get it? Why can't I find that?
Exactly. I don't even have that picture.
So you kind of thank them for the compliment, but at the same time, it's not fair to the people or your business when it's supposed to be about real stuff,
Yeah, I've had a few. I don't know how many I have on Facebook. Creech would know because Creech, you actually started one of my Facebook ones because I was like, dude, I'm not on Facebook. Go ahead and start one. But the best part is like you're saying, my sister or my mom was like, I tried to friend you on Facebook. Why don't you accept me? Or like, why aren't you?
Right.
I go, I'm not. That's not me. You know what I mean? My sister's like, you don't really talk to me on Facebook.
Can I tell you something? The ones go on, you first, Paul.
So just say I have a lot of the fake Paul Logans on Facebook. I would go on there and just read some of the stuff, and a couple of the guys were just being real like belligerent assholes. Like people were like, oh, are you doing a sequel to Code Red? And they're like, and they were just spouting off this bullshit. So the funny thing is, though, they wouldn't friend me, so I could, because you had to sort of dialogue with them to get it shut down. So what I would do is my little nephew, and he loved doing this. He was like my little mole. He would friend them on Facebook because he has a different last name, and start this dialogue and say, oh, are you doing a sequel to Ballistic? Are you doing this, that? And then the guy would do this dialogue with him, and he would take a screenshot of it and send it to Facebook, and he'd be like, busted. My uncle's a real Paul Logan. So he was my little mole shutting them all down. My little nephew Mason. So
yeah, we're gonna get those. We're gonna get the young CIA to protect us. In reference to mother or your mother-in-law or whoever it was, friendly. When it comes to that, and people that are close me say that to me, I'm like, my friend, just call me. I don't need the face. You know what I mean?
Oh,
it's like, if you're offended, asshole, call me since we're friends. If we're really friends, pick up the phone. I wouldn't say that to mothers. But it's just this is the one thing about this modern world, guys. You get so much good information and you spread your business around, but the other stuff that's phony, it just bothers the shit out of me. You know, you can't really control it as best. I mean, you control it now. Get rid of things and do all that stuff, but you know, sometimes it's just unfair.
Yeah, no, I agree, and then and that's the thing. It's sort of like my friend just had a baby and then got mad at me because they're posting it on Facebook. But you could just, my email. We're actually email all the time, but yet, things like those posts, or I'm doing stand-up comedy at this place. It's like, well, why didn't you invite me? It's like, it was on Facebook. It's like, what?
Right.
You expect me to be on there? Like, that's where I'm supposed to get everything that I do? It's like, what happened with phone call or an email,
Right. Andrew Dice Clay had a bit once when he restarted his little tour a couple of years ago. And he's like, he sees people at parties, hey, Dice, did you get my email? People do that across the room. And he goes, don't ask me if I got anything. Tell me. We're still human beings. You can still talk to people,
So, really quick, Paul, I think my cringe moment of the movie, to me, aside from when Byrne pulled out the tongue, but was when the girl, and I forget the character's name there, but when the young student gets nailed to the table, and they're going to breathe, and there's a great line there of something about Jesus,
I didn't write
how
that.
Jesus felt or something.
That it's funny that actor Frankie, he actually ad-libbed that, and I was vacillating back and forth between keeping that in or not. But I had to walk away from the computer when I wrote that scene because that was I wanted to make these characters so disturbing and so evil that when they get their comeuppance, the audience is cheer. But that moment, that and the Earl scene, where. Yeah, I had to walk away from the computer for a little bit after that. But those were definitely intense.
Yeah, but just because of that inbred or mutant, that was mutant. Not to get. I don't know if we're spoiling alert that it's the Hills Have Eyes, and there is the Horde, so to speak. Are these sort of mutated, of an old mine town that still live up in these, in generations and generations. But the one character that comes in to breed with that girl, he's just, I don't know what disease that guy has, but he needs some penicillin. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and the thing is, the cool thing is that character. I mean, it's when I was talking to our special effects guy Eric Fox from Morbex Effects about the how the look of the Horde. And when I wrote it, I wanted to keep everything kind of based in reality, but to a heightened effect. And he understood that, and he, did a lot of research on Chernobyl victims. And there's actually another thing. It's called a tree root disease. And that's that guy where your skin.
I think they have it in South America too, in South America.
That's exactly right. And it's these It's almost like these huge warts that look like bark. And so we just took that and kind of extrapolated it out with this guy.
Yeah.
And, he's creepy.
Yeah, I recognized it right away. It's like, I've seen that. People really do, knock on wood, and prayers are out to hopefully, people of this country is getting down to those countries and supplying medical attention to these type of things that other countries have. But it's a real thing for sure. That's
elephantitis.
Yeah, it's what makes the Horde actually even grosser. And did you have some disabled people actually playing some of the roles? I thought I saw some there were some characters that were they don't have legs or feet or whatever. And
it was we were when we were casting, we were approached by an agent who represents people with disabilities and wanted to know if we wanted to use some of her clients for the Horde. And she sent us over some pictures of two women. One was Zara and one was Belinda. And they both have different disabilities. And Belinda was, unfortunately in a horrible fire and was burnt. And before, I thought they would be great for the film. But before we even thought about hiring them, I actually went over and talked to both of them and asked them and explained the project to them and explained everything and wanted to make sure that they weren't going to feel exploited in any way, shape, or form, because otherwise it was no deal for me. Because that was the last thing I wanted, because I didn't want, that at all. And they were both to the contrary. We're like, no, we want to do this. This is great. Belinda had done one film before, and she was so happy, when she saw herself on film and felt comfortable with that. And I wanted to make sure of that beforehand. And, once that was said, though, they both came on and did an amazing job and brought, some really hyper-realism to those, to those two characters. And we're very thankful to have them on and, to be able to, to let them work on a film and let them, fulfill some of their dreams. They were both happy to work in the film, and we were happy to have them.
Yeah, no, that having real people with disabled, disabilities in there, and then the makeup on top of it, it really lent itself to like sort of this really gritty. It kind of had that Mad Max, Frank Miller style to it. You know what I mean? It's like, whoa, this is, it's just, I feel like that really helps sell it a little bit more too. We're going to get Mosley on this month. We're going to get Jared Cohen, and then we'll get Tiffany as well. I've worked with all of them, and so it's a great cast, you know what I mean? And you guys both got to have your moments with Tiffany there, so that's a score. That's definitely a plus of being an actor, right? I mean, working out.
That's win-win.
She's wife material in my mind. I wish I wasn't married. So.
The writer fucked everything up for me. I'm in a bedroom with a woman and I can't touch her.
That's because you got that elephantitis of the nuts, man. I didn't want to show that on screen,
I did have, but when you're talking to her about going down to the aisle, I was like, I can see that. He's, she's rubbing a little suntan lotion on him, and he's got the bat to the side, and
Well, blame the writer. Always blame the writer.
Well, I'll tell you, it's funny. It's funny that you say that, because when I wrote the character, I wasn't sure who was going to play that, and I expected also. I wanted Atkinson to be, kind of repulsive, so that idea, kind of would really, really just, repulse her. But, Costas, I'm a flaming heterosexual, but Costas is a good-looking dude, and so. Somewhere maybe in the back of her head, she's like, well, maybe I'll go with him. Come on, my guy's dead. This guy's good.
Yeah, it's like, what's the other option here? I'm tied to a bed and about to be eaten, or a little mutation mating. This isn't such a bad offer. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
All I got to say about that is, Paul, my elephantitis is cured, and I'm ready.
Oh, good.
Film.
That's good. I'm working on mine still.
Hey, so speaking of working, I know we're here to talk about the Horde, and we're going to promote it all month, but what's next for both of you? What do you got coming up, Costas, that you want to chat about?
Well, there's a movie that I just finished. I got to tell you, when you work, again, like we did with Paul and the guys, there's a movie called Residue that I did up in Canada with these crazy, wonderful Canadian guys, and I really enjoyed the part, because I got to be funny, although I'm not trying to be funny. And, it's a horror genre, and it's a real mind fuck. And whoever sees that movie is going to enjoy it. They kind of push the barriers for what it is. So, Residue. And, I did a movie with my brother who directed some really great actors called that came out on DVD. And it's a really enjoyable film about when shit goes down, the lights go out, and nobody's got electricity. People get how silly and debaucherous they get because they want to survive. And there's a few other things cooking too, but the two that come to mind.
Awesome. Well, we'll look forward to those. And Paul, what's next for you now that you're, breathing a little easier, that this thing's out and about and people are raving about it?
Thank you. I'm waiting on start dates for 2 more action films, but the next one that I'm doing that I wrote is it's a film called The Edge of Madness, which is kind of like Die Hard in an insane asylum. So that's
nice.
Yeah, my character is a detective trapped in this asylum that's pretty much the worst of the worst of the criminally insane, your Dahmers, your Gacy's, your Bundys, and he's kind of, got to fight his way out.
Oh, actually, have you done that yet, or are you going to?
What, buddy?
Have you already done that, or you're going to do it?
No, we're going to do that one. I'll send you it.
Okay, I'm dying to shave my head. Give me an excuse.
I'll shave your head for you.
It'll match his balls that way. That's good.
How did you know?
All right. Well, yeah, I look forward. That one sounds great too, because I've always wanted to see that Con Air of sociopath killers. You know what I'm saying? So you basically have this Con Air sociopathic killers, insane asylum with a Die Hard thing, and obviously you're at the heart of it, saving the day. I look forward to that one. And what's cool about what I like about what you do here on your writings is you tap into social things, you know what I'm saying? So, like, I already see how this thing of how the world treats mental illness and stuff like that is already going to be a little bit at play there. So that, you tap into these things. It's pretty cool. So, which is good. You're not just out making, you're making the popcorn movies. You've got this one, the horror and you got horror and the, action and stuff like that, but it taps into other levels for each film.
Well, the cool thing about this is all those characters that are in there have had, like, scumbag lawyers who have basically gotten them, off of the death row by saying, they were mentally unstable, so they're in there.
Right.
So they've gotten away with everything up until this point. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, that's great. All right, we look forward to hearing it. Thank you guys for taking time to be on our show. And once again, everybody, get out there and check out the Horde. It's really good. And, I tend to not promote movies this hard, but this is one that I saw come upon us. And I just thought it had all the right variables. So this is a great job, Paul. Good job, Costas. And look forward to chatting with you guys later on. Right. Later, guys.
Take care, guys.
Later.
Great. Take it easy.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Take it easy.
All right. Welcome back, guys. It's a great interview. And, it's interviews like this that I have the most fun doing, because me and Dave got to watch the movie beforehand, and then to actually interview them about it, while it's still fresh in our minds, it's just awesome. And these were two really great guys. I mean, you've only heard about 45 minutes to 50 minutes of this interview, but we talked for well over an hour and a half. It was a great time chatting with these guys. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, as you can see, that was the bulk of our podcast today. However, I do want to go over just some quick news things. So we do have a couple of things that I want to talk about. I was originally going to talk about some, but we'll save those for Dave. But these are kind of two of the more recent things that I've seen that, I don't mind talking about a little bit today. The first one is actually has been in the news. If you hadn't seen, this first one comes from overseas, and it's kind of biblical in nature. Now, there's a Dutch carpenter out there named Johan Hubers had a dream of a flood in his hometown. So what he wound up doing was he created a, apparently to the T, replica of Noah's Ark. And from what I hear, it's been shipped around, like touring and taking it to other cities to show it off and everything, for whatever reasons. And as it was being guided into a harbor, it actually crashed into a Coast Guard vessel in Oslo Harbor in Norway. And it's kind of funny. I mean, you can it didn't sink. No animals were harmed, of course, because no animals were actually on this ark. So it wasn't completely to the T, if it's following what the Bible says. However, if you've ever wondered what a wooden ship would look like when it basically ran into a metal Coast Guard vessel, the pictures are online. The link's going to be in the description of this podcast, and it's actually kind of funny. Now, the next one And the last one we're going to talk about today is actually been in the news. I'm reading it from people. This is the Amityville horror house where 6 people were murdered in 1974 is now on the market for $850,000. A waterfront home on Long Island boasts a formal dining room, a heated sunroom, and a large boathouse, and a history so terrifying that it inspired a book and horror films. Owner Carolyn D'Antonio has listed the 5-bedroom, 4-bathroom 1927 Dutch Colonial, better known as the Amityville Horror House, for $850,000. D'Antonio and her husband David, who died last year, purchased the otherwise charming house in 2010 for $950,000. In 1974, the home became the scene of 6 grisly murders when 23-year-old Ronald DeFeo Jr. shot and killed his parents and his 4 siblings as they slept in their bed. DeFeo is currently serving 25 years to life at the Greenhaven Correctional Facility in Stormville, New York. 1 year after the murders, George and Kathy Lutz moved in. They reportedly lasted only 28 days in the house, claiming to have witnessed paranormal activity like odd noises, voices, and green slime oozing from the walls. Their experiences inspired the 1976 novel The Amityville Horror, a true story, which was turned into the iconic 1979 horror film and remade in 2005, starring Ryan Reynolds. I think pretty much everybody has seen the Amityville Horror at some point in their lives. Actually, I get to travel up and down the East Coast doing interviews for press, and last August we actually wound up going to New York, and obviously if you go there, then you definitely stop by that place. So we checked it out, and the windows were changed, but that's pretty much the difference. Like the old creepy windows weren't there anymore, which kind of makes sense. But actually, ironically enough, nothing crazy happened driving by it. However, the craziness happened the morning after. First off, that night that we actually slept at some motel down the road that was like, you've heard those stories from the hotels that I stay at. But, it was really run down, but honestly enough, even though it was kind of in a bad neighborhood, it had a decent view. The worst part, worse than the prices or anything, certain things in the bathroom not working, no toilet paper, worse than all of that was actually the beds felt like you were sleeping on cinder blocks. Like, I slept there most of the night, and it was the most uncomfortable thing. I probably would have had a better time sleeping on the floor, which did have carpet. And hey, they did have cable TV, so it wasn't a full bust, I guess. But nothing crazy happened there. But we had a crazy, dramatic, filled day the next day. So maybe, just maybe, driving by it could have possibly, affected us in some way. But I really doubt it. It doesn't matter. But whoever buys this house that's a gold mine. If I had $850,000 lying around, I'd buy it just to make more movies there. Are you kidding me? There'd be like 50 million Amityville horrors coming out. Oh, that would be the life. But I digress. We'll actually get Dave's thoughts on what he would do if he bought the Amityville house next week. But that's going to wrap it up for this week, guys. It's been a really great episode. I really hope you enjoyed that interview. Once again, apologies. Wi-Fi apparently hates us, and even though we're distance-wise the closest we've actually been to each other in recording this podcast, we're actually not even on the same podcast right now. So, with that being said, that is going to wrap it up here for the Dave and Creech Show. Thank you for joining us. Dave Sheridan will be back on next week, yes, so it won't just be the Creech Show, technically. Next week, Dave and Creech back in full force for the quarter episode. We're at 25 next week. Once again, thank you for listening. Those listening on WROM, You can check out the unbleeped and uncensored and extended version on Spreaker, keyword Dave and Creech. And once again, thank you for those listening on Spreaker still. Thank you for all the people listening on WROM. Thank you. Check out the Horde. See you next week.
Shut up and sit down.
Thank you for listening to the Dave and Creech Show. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of Dave and CJ. These views and opinions do not necessarily represent those of Creech Creative Productions or any of its affiliates.